Vancouver Landlord Summarizes experience with tenants from different countries. What is the biggest difference between operating Airbnb and long-term rental housing? In fact, it's not about income, but about the fact that the latter is the landlord's long-term contact with a group of tenants, while the former is the landlord's continuous contact with tenants of all ethnicities and ages. After receiving enough orders, the landlord can summarize the personalities and characteristics of tenants in each country and age group, providing experience for other landlords and understanding the personalities of people from all over the world. Western European tenants, very clean, but with many requirements. Western European tenants, including those from countries such as the UK, France, and Germany, generally come to Vancouver for travel purposes such as winter skiing, summer hiking, and autumn maple leaf viewing. People from well-established countries such as the UK, France, and Germany are relatively serious, especially those from the UK and Germany. They are definitely polite and send booking messages that are as respectful as writing a book. However, it may be due to customs and habits that they have higher requirements for Airbnb's services, such as changing bed sheets and garbage bags every 2 to 3 days, and often asking if they have tea bags because they have a habit of drinking tea. Eastern European tenants, the whole journey is full of excitement, but it's still relatively neat. I have received some Eastern European tenants myself, such as those from the Czech Republic, Hungary, and other countries, and found that these tenants are obviously more enthusiastic than people from Western Europe. The sound of talking and making noise in the basement often reaches the 3rd floor of the independent house. At that time, I thought the room they left must be dirty, messy, but I found that it was still quite tidy, just not as tidy as people in Western Europe. In fact, the differences among tenants in Eastern Europe and Western Europe are similar to my basic understanding of Eastern Europe and Western Europeans, and there is no surprise. Canadian tenants, average, friendly attitude. Most tenants in countries have their own distinct characteristics, but Canadian tenants are average and lack individuality, just like the national characteristics of Canada. These Canadian tenants generally have a friendly attitude and don't make much noise when checking in, but they don't leave their rooms in the same organized manner as British tenants. American tenants, relatively the most difficult to serve, with a sense of superiority. Among all the ethnic tenants received, I believe the most difficult one to serve is the American tenant, because in my over 100 Airbnb orders, all 3 complaints were from American tenants. This makes me very puzzled because everyone knows that the hotel industry in the United States is recognized as expensive and without service, so people may think that Americans should not have any requirements for staying in hotels or Airbnb. After all, they are used to it, but the result is exactly the opposite. They may terminate the lease early due to some issues, such as I feel allergic to the carpet, but I don't know the specific reason, or finding a very short hair. In addition, American tenants also have obvious etiquette, such as Canadian and Western European tenants, but they leave relatively clean. Chinese, silent and leaves the most garbage. What kind of tenant is the best tenant? It's best to avoid making noise, disturbing the room, and leaving too much garbage. Among all the Chinese tenants they come into contact with, no one can achieve all 3 at the same time, but everyone can do it without making any noise, which is definitely one of the quietest ethnic groups. After Chinese tenants leave, the cleanliness of their rooms is significantly lower than that of European and American ethnic groups, and they leave the most garbage because Chinese people love ordering takeout, and Vancouver has many takeout apps. Among all ethnic groups in terms of tenant quality, Chinese Americans are at the middle level. Similar to Chinese people, they are of Southeast Asian descent who love ordering takeout, are relatively quiet, and their rooms are generally tidy. They are considered to be of no use, and do not have many flaws. Indian, surprisingly good, just greedy for small gains. Indian Americans have always been targeted in Canada, especially Chinese Americans who dislike them, and often refer to them as Asan. When Indian tenants arrive, I am actually quite scared. On the one hand, I am afraid of the smell, and on the other hand, I am afraid of making a mess in the room. But to my surprise, the 7 to 8 groups of Indian Americans received so far have hardly found any problems. Not only is it polite, but the room is also very tidy, except for a slight amount of garbage. However, one issue has indeed been discovered: Indian Americans do love to take advantage of small gains. Because for the sake of cleanliness, I always put some disposable toothbrushes and towels on the sofa, and other ethnic groups have not touched them. However, Indian tenants often take some with them, and once they took all the disposable toothbrushes. Japanese booking is the most cautious, with the most issues and good conduct. Japanese Americans love to come to Vancouver, and their room booking issues are the most common: transportation, privacy, surrounding environment, room noise, and so on. They often need to ask clearly before booking. But their conduct is very good. They don't make noise, don't disturb the room, and every time they ask more questions, they will say, "I'm sorry to trouble you again." Overall, Japanese Americans belong to the high-quality group within Airbnb. Elderly tenants are clean, but it's not easy to give high scores. After discussing various ethnic groups, let's finally talk about age. Actually, everyone knows that elderly people, regardless of their ethnicity, usually keep everything organized and their rooms tidy. However, because they have high requirements for cleanliness, they generally do not give you a 5-star rating. On the contrary, young people are generally indifferent, happy to come and go, giving you a 5-star rating casually, and not caring about too many details. A reckless tenant. If you are so worried about this that you dare not become an Airbnb landlord because of it, then it is overthinking. At least so far you have not encountered it. People who come to Vancouver to find Airbnb generally have good qualities.